Welcome back to a special feature of the Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast. We're excited to have you join us here today. Before we dive in, we'd like to thank our sponsors who help make this possible. First off, a big thank you to our title sponsor again for 2024, the Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. Whether it's tractors, mowers, utility vehicles, construction, or farm equipment, Kubota's got you covered. With 9 convenient locations across the state of South Dakota and 1 in northwest Iowa, there's always a Kubota dealer nearby. Stop by your local Kubota dealer and see all they have to offer. All Jackrabbit Illustrated special features are sponsored this year by Northwestern Mutual. Northwestern Mutual, the one stop for all your financial planning and life insurance needs. Next, we'd like to appreciate the support of our other special feature sponsors, Cubby Sports Bar and Grill, the best sports bar and grill in South Dakota and the best place to watch the Jacks for away games. Culver's of Brookings and Watertown. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Jackrabbit Central, the single best place to get all the best Jackrabbit gear. And now, your special feature.
And welcome back to the Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast. Joined today by none other than Dom Izzo from WDAY up in Fargo, the play-by-play voice, radio, television, you name it. Dom probably does it up there. So, Dom, how you doing today?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for the invite, bud. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, just longtime admirer of your work. You do a terrific job. We're lucky in the Valley to have so much media that actually cares about their school. But honestly, you do it the best up there. So you do a great job. And it's easy to follow as a fan of another school in the Valley. It makes it easy for me. So.
Well, I appreciate that. It's something that I love. I've covered it now. This is my 18th year in Fargo, and it's only blown up. You know, it was kind of a fluky thing of combining TV, radio, and the newspaper here in town, of getting them all on the same page, and it just coincided with the Bison getting really good, and things after that have just exploded. I know meeting you guys when we were down in Brookings for College Game Day, and you guys were getting things off the ground with things there in 2019, and see what SDSU's done over the last 5 years is eerily similar to what we saw in Fargo from 2010 to 2016.
All right. Oh, cool. Thanks again for being here. So want to talk, let's go back a little bit to last spring when Matt Entz decided to go coach at USC. Lots of talk in the program about who would replace him. And the players and former players were very vocal about Tyler Roll stepping into that job. He was not named the head coach, obviously, and he's now at Iowa State. And Tim Polasek is the head man. How did he win over the locker room after that? You don't see players usually publicly taking sides like that.
Yeah, it was crazy because it was all during the week too, when the Bison were getting ready to play in Missoula against Montana last December in the FCS semifinals. So you had all that swirling, and there was a football game happening. I think Tim won him over basically with his personality. If anybody has met the man, he goes 100 miles an hour. That is not phony. That is him. And he even told us, though, that initial first meeting when he got the job, it did not go over well. I think there were quite a few people, as you mentioned, Cam Miller being most notably starting quarterback, who wanted to see Tyler Roll get the job. That did not happen. He told us he broke them out into groups and then had some more, one-on-one conversation. And I think that's where he had more success and started really to win them over. He had a heck of a job to do because 2 of his best players were being courted in the portal, in Gray Zabel and Cole Wisniewski, and he fought them off with the help of the Green and Gold Collective here to keep them both in Fargo for this season. But initially, it was not an instant love affair. I will tell you that, and he will tell you that as well. But his personality is you can't ignore it, and if you're a 21-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid, and he comes at you with that, I don't know how you say no. I really don't. You would want to fight through a wall for this guy, and that's the intensity that I remember when I got here in 2006, when he was the running back coach, to when he was offensive coordinator from 2014 to 2016 to now. I asked him that when he got the job. I'm like, are you the same guy that I remember? And he said, I may have mellowed a little bit. Nah, he hasn't. He's still the same.
Yeah, his initial press conference reminded me of Jimmy's initial press conference, just with like the
Yep.
holy cow, this is a freight train coming right here.
Yep.
And then even like the press conferences this week, Jimmy's and Tim's, just like, wow, like just the intensity is palpable. Like you just want to be there. So with that, this week in his press conference, Coach Polisek was really vocal about the marker mattering, and that's maybe a tone shift, I think, from Matt Entz. How's that being taken or absorbed by the players, I guess?
I think they're ready to go through a wall. They've seen this. There are 20 some odd guys that are 6-year seniors that they didn't play. Some, like Braylon Henderson, was dressed for that game in Brookings in 2019. He didn't play, but he was on the team.
Sure.
The Mostart twins were there. They were right next to me on the sideline. They didn't play in that game, but they were on the team. That's the last time they've seen the marker. And Jackrabbit fans know all about that from when NDSU won it for 6 straight times, from 10 to 16 of how they dominated this series. So I think it's been received. It's definitely, you're exactly right. It's definitely a tonal change. I think Matt, to his credit, wanted every game was a big game. Everybody was up for the Bison. We've seen that.
Yep.
Now the Jack living it every single week as well. I don't think Matt ever stressed one game more than another. Tim has definitely not done that. UND was a big game. Obviously, what happened in Grand Forks last year, there's no mistake about that. That was a big one that he wanted to get. This one is, I think, bigger, frankly, because the Jackrabbits are ahead of the Bison. They've passed NDSU over the last 2 years, and frankly, the games haven't been close. The game in Frisco wasn't close. The game in Brookings wasn't close. I don't care what the final score was last year. It was 30-9 at one point. The Bison were just getting blown off the field. That has been, I think, well received by the upperclassmen, especially, that this senior class hasn't beaten them. They want to end that streak badly Saturday night.
Yep. All right, so let's shift to maybe some of the play on the field. And Cam Miller, I mean, has just had a phenomenal 2 years, really. I thought he was great last year, too.
Yes.
I thought maybe the Bison faithful are a little hard on him, in my opinion, from watching from afar.
Also, you have to realize the quarterback, the quarterback lineage here was, 3 straight guys that got drafted, 2 in the top 4 picks of the NFL. So, yeah.
Yep.
The guy he was following, he wasn't even supposed to be the guy. Cam Miller was not supposed to be the guy here. It was supposed to, in NDSU's planning, it was going to go from Trey Lance was going to be here for at least 3 years. So 2019, 2020, 2021. And then Cole Payton was going to get the job. All I heard was Cole Payton in 2022, he was going to take the reins and he was going to be the guy for 4 years. And then they went, on to their next guy. Cam was never the guy. And he got passed over for the starting job twice. First for Zeb Nolan, then Quincy Patterson. So the fact that he is going to be a top 3 Bison quarterback of all time is one of the great stories in Bison football history, in my mind.
Yeah. So what has he credited with his progression over these 4 or 5 years, I guess?
I think, obviously familiarity with the offense. I think the fact that he started 2 games as a true freshman in that crazy spring playoff of 2021. He stuck around, and I think that's a credit to him and Mark Gronowski. Though we're never going to have a matchup ever again where 2 guys have played each other 4 times. Never. Not in the era of the portal. That's just not going to happen again. I would be stunned.
Yeah, I'd agree.
2 quarterbacks facing each other 4 separate times. I'd be stunned if that ever happened again. He is the son of a high school football coach. Kevin Miller is one of the most successful coaches in the state of Iowa, out of Solon High School. That is bred into him. I think he's wanted to get better. His personal QB coach has really worked with him the last couple of years, and it's been a progression. If you saw the Cam Miller that faced the Jacks in October of 22, and that first half, that was as good as the Bison have played in a year and a half. That should have been 28-3, and that game's probably over. And Cam had a personal foul, unsportsmanlike penalty that cost the Bison points on that drive, and you can say it cost him the game. I don't buy that because there was still another half to play. But he's certainly upped his game. It's hard to pinpoint one exact thing. I think obviously he has been excellent with his legs. he's gotten so much better just for a feel in the pocket that typically with Cam over the last couple of years, a throw would be behind a guy or just off. It's not that anymore. He's hitting guys in stride. I mean, one of my questions with this Bison team in 24 was their wide receivers, and he's made them all look like they're all Americans. This wide receiver core is really, really talented. That's because of number 7. He's been great.
Okay, so let's segue to that. The young wide receivers. You're replacing Eli Green, you're replacing Zach Mathis. Rajah Nelson's hardly played this year.
Yep.
And you've looked at it, and for me, I love recruiting. I love recruiting, and you look at it, and NDSU has had some awesome wide receiver recruits the last 3-4 years, but they hadn't seen the field.
Yeah.
Were you scratching your head up there saying, what the heck's going on? Why can't these guys get on the field? Or
that was one I hit a lot. Bryce Lance was one. And obviously Bryce was offered first by the Jackrabbits, and then the Bison coaches got on the phone. I remember that vividly on that. Like, wow, South Dakota State offered him first, which just seemed like a no-brainer. But obviously Marshall being in relation to how far away it is from, a half hour, 40 minutes from Brookings. It's not that far. Carson Hegerly was a highly touted kid who could just not stay healthy from West Fargo. Kid I covered for a long time his dad was a great Bison that couldn't that just couldn't stay healthy, and he ended up retiring before the season began. Braylon Henderson was another, but you look at the guys, and Paulk brought this up, like he couldn't believe that Bryce only had 1 catch going into the season. I'm not taking Eli Green or Zach Mathis off the field. I'm just not. I mean, those guys were really, really good. Rajah was inconsistent until the final 6 games of last year, and then something clicked. I mean, the game against the Jacks, he had a long kick return and he had a couple catches, but it was after that, the following week in Southern Illinois, like, oh, this was the Rajah Nelson who was the player of the year in the state of Minnesota. Like, that was the guy that I saw at Lakeville North back in 2017. So it's hard to, because the offense is such a weird deal on that. It's not traditional in terms of how they run the football. They use their tight ends, but they've got some really, really good playmaking. Chris Harris, another guy.
Yep.
Harris was on special teams. Now he's become a Kai Collins at a Kansas State offer that I was like, okay, when are we going to see these guys on the field? And now here we are. Bryce in his 4th year, Makai's in his 3rd, that they're awfully talented. There's a reason why they had the number of stars, especially Makai next to their name. I can't give you a great reason on that.
And Makai's
I wish you had a better explanation of why they didn't get on the field sooner, because Bison fans were asking me that all the time too.
Hey, and with the backs, it felt like, under Roll, and maybe before that even, they'd kind of gone to more of a platoon approach at the running back position. And it wasn't just the Bruce Anderson and Ty Brooks, like that kind of dual threat anymore. But they're back to that 2-back system now with Marty Brown and Barica. How has that affected? What's that done for the team?
Well, Tim also said his first day of fall camp, I want a number 1 back. I want a guy on a poster, which is what he had. John Crockett was the guy in 2014. He ran for 2,300 yards. He had an amazing season. Excuse me. And Tim's last year, 2016, you'll remember it was Lance Dunn, Bruce Anderson, King Frazier, Chase Morlock. Those guys are all number 1s any other place in the country in the FCS except NDSU, where they had all 4. So you had to, share the ball there. In the last couple of years, they have not had a back. Marty Brown, redshirt freshman from Omaha, has the capability. You've seen him continue to get more carries each game as the season's gone along. Barica's coming in too. Barica's a young guy from West Fargo that's now in his 4th year in the program. That there's something there that he's got a different burst. Marty Brown told me the first day I met him, like, he craves contact. He likes to, run into guys and then get yards after contact. We just haven't seen him break one yet. Neither guy. Nobody's done that yet. Cole Payton has, but not the running backs. I don't think that will happen this weekend, knowing the Jackrabbit defense, but that's something as you go forward for the Bison, I'd keep an eye on, just that it has not happened yet with the running backs.
Okay. All right, let's switch over on the other side of the ball. Talked to you just before we went on, and you kind of smiled about this, but the young defensive line for NDSU, they're starting to grow up. They're not a young defensive line anymore. Jackson Dutenheffer, and Husted and Cole Menz, some of those guys that 2 years ago up in the Fargo Dome took some lumps. I remember that specifically because they were freshmen or redshirt freshmen in that game. How have they grown up over the last 2 years?
Cole Menz maybe could have won the game as well. If you remember,
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Marquise Siegel's now playing at Kansas State, hit Gronowski. The ball was sitting there, and Menz couldn't pick it up, and the Jacks. And again, another huge play in that game. That's why I say that penalty didn't cost the Bison. Cody Heisman has had his 2 best weeks of Bison. Young man from Pella, Iowa. Jackson Dutenheffer has played really well. He missed last week. Plans are that he's going to be back with an elbow injury. But Eli Mostart was out for that season. Remember, he broke his leg earlier on. Eli's played like a senior, like a guy that a 6-year guy. You go back to conversation about how important the marker is. I have a feeling it's really important to a guy like that. And you saw it, though, that SDSU offensive line, I remember, and John O'Brien got, I think, 3 or 4 false starts in the first half of that game in the Dome. They rallied, though, in the second half. The Jacks were leaning on a young Bison interior. And that's a spot, I think you know as well as I, redshirt freshmen don't play a whole lot there. I mean, 2 Bison I can remember that Levon Perry and Nate Tangway were redshirt freshmen that played in the middle, and they were really good players. But
and those are 2 pretty special. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, those are not typical spots at nose tackle and nose guard that you're playing redshirt freshmen or sophomores. They did because they had to. And I'd say by the end of 22, they were pretty darn good. And now you actually have a legit rotation. I keep an eye on Keenan Wilson too. Now here's a redshirt freshman from Eagan, Minnesota, but he's kind of got that freak ability that he might be able to get in. So they'll rotate some guys, but that was certainly a trial by fire. And they know it, though. They've been manhandled by the Jacks in those 3 games, the fall of 22, the championship game, and last year down in Brookings.
Sure. Yeah, that Keenan, what is Brown? What is the freshman? The Keenan
Wilson.
Keenan Wilson. Thank you. He's twitchy for a kid that big. He's kind of fun. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he gets some more reps this week. But I've been impressed with what I've seen with him so far. Secondary with Cole Wisniewski being out, huge loss. Obviously, this matchup would feature 2 of the All-American safeties for most people's ballot this year, in Cole Wisniewski and Tucker Large. Tucker's probably questionable for this week. Too bad we won't get to see them. But how has that secondary changed since Colorado? Because that was obviously that's a tough matchup for anyone.
It was not for a couple of those guys. That was their introduction to college football. Was Travis Hunter, and Jimmy Horn Jr.
Welcome.
Okay. But it's never going to be more challenging than that, probably until maybe this week. And I mean, I like the Jacks guys, but they're not Travis Hunter. They're not that guy. It was rough. I'll be honest with you. The first few weeks, they were still missing tackles. A slight move of Sam Young moving safety positions has really changed, where he's closer to the ball now. And they moved Darius Gibbons out of that other safety spot. And that seems as like some magic elixir back there, because that's totally changed. Jalen Crumby is also playing, young man from Tampa that was missed the first 4 games with a thumb injury. He's healthy. They've got some quick hitters back there that Sam Young can make plays. I mean, this is going to be his 3rd game against the Jackrabbits, that another 6-year guy that wants desperately to see the Dakota Marker, but they were not without making changes. Cornerback has been a spot. Jalen Duffy, redshirt freshman there from just outside Chicago. He got posterized, is the best way to say it, because Travis Hunter had that catch where basically caught it with his armpit and Duffy was all over him. That was great coverage by Duffy, but Travis Hunter. He's played really well. He has been paired with Marcus Shepard in his 2nd year after transferring from Bowling Green. They've been, I think, really good at the cornerback spot. That's all credit to Will Johnson, new cornerback coach that came from USC. Former Oklahoma corner, that rising guy in the industry. He thinks this guy could really not be in Fargo long. I think they've done a really nice job of adjusting, knowing their players. I mean, you can't replace Tucker Large back there. That guy's amazing. You can't replace Cole Wisniewski. 8 interceptions. Cole was everywhere. that was the biggest question mark heading into the season, knowing full well that Wisniewski wasn't going to play. They've been good. Massive challenge this weekend they're going to have.
Yeah. Dom, I apologize to everyone that's been leaving questions in the comments as well. I'm not used to running the comments. Chad usually does that. But Brian Thompson, the Taco King from FCS Fans Nation here. Let's get the cat off the bat question asked. Is Cam going to be 100%, or is it Cam from SIU that couldn't be Cam?
Yeah, I wish I had the answer for that. I think for anybody that watched the game, you could clearly tell that Cam was not 100%. I don't know if he will be the rest of the year. If that kind of ankle injury, that could persist. Paulk said on Tuesday that he looked better on Monday than he did a week ago Monday, but you should, because that was just a couple days removed from the injury. Clearly, he was limited. He said to me after the game he was at 75%. He still was 18 of 24. I mean, that's still pretty darn good. Now, his ability to move with his legs, you cannot. That's something the Jacks have certainly seen up close over the last handful of years. If he can't do that, that's a major hit to the Bison offense. His ability to move out of the pocket, much like Mark Gradowski, you can't account for that. I don't know. I think he'll be better, but I think Paulk's going to throw out there to get ready for Cole Payton too. Be smart,
Yep. Yep. All right, and we got one other question. But from Raja Nelson, might be back for this game.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good bet. So in the era of, you get the 4-game rule, I think Paulk has been smart about this, that he played against Colorado. He did tweak his groin in the Colorado game. He got off the field really slowly. He missed the next few weeks, missed the next 4 games. He came back for UND, didn't play last week. I think you can put 2 and 2 together, that you're going to see number 3 out there Saturday night, and then he'll have one other game to play. I think we can probably put that one together. It'll probably be in Vermilion at the end of the season. And then you can keep your red shirt and play all the playoff games. I think that's an interesting question, though, because that's a guy who's been here 5 years. And in this era where, sometimes the 6-year guys, I'm not saying this all the time, you may not get their best football because they're beat up, that sometimes younger guys need to play because they're the fresher, maybe better body. And that the Bison have experienced that, and I'm sure the Jacks have as well.
Yep. All right. Any other questions, folks? Dom, if not, I got to thank some sponsors quick. Got to thank the Kubota dealers of South Dakota. Get that orange for yourself. Got to thank Northwestern Mutual for your financial planning needs, whether it's retirement, kids' college savings, whatever it may be. And then Culver's. Dom, I got to ask, when you go to Culver's, what's your order?
Okay, so I am definitely a concrete mixer guy. The Reese's peanut butter cup with chocolate is dominant. That'll has me filled for about the rest of the day. I know that. The chicken tender basket is also the Buffalo chicken tender one, A+.
Perfect. And then we got to thank Cubby's Sports Bar and Grill in Brookings. Dom, you probably know Cubby's. Stopped down there before.
I was there last year. I ran into Hendo for a bit. We had a good chat about the upcoming Bison Jackrabbit basketball game. So they were great. We were there last year before the Dakota Marker game. It was fantastic.
Okay. And final one is Jackrabbit Central. Obviously 3 locations in Brookings and online. So make sure you stop and do that.
You guys got to send me a miniature. I need a white Jackrabbit helmet for my studio. Okay. Can you make that happen? I need because I love the white helmet. I want the Bison to get a white helmet. You guys prepare first. I got to get one of those.
Okay. Jim Poppin, I think we can all echo this. Great stuff. And I've been listening to Hot Mike this week. Yes. Hot Mike is awesome, Dom. Everyone really appreciates it. We love it. So then again, Taco King here. Does Coach P break anything this game? Run the damn ball again.
I remember SDSU breaking the windows at the Dome a few years ago as well, up in the coach offices. Paulk is certainly his intensity will certainly run over. And that's the thing. The team that keeps the cooler head is going to win the football game. The turnover thing is huge. You guys have talked about it as well. The Jacks haven't had any turnovers since Keaton Heidi threw a pick in Brookings 2019. Think about that. Think about that. Josh Hayes, who played at 2 other schools after making that play, now playing in
Yeah.
Tampa Bay with the Bucks. That's the last time the Jacks had a turnover against the
Man,
Bison.
that's
It's
wild.
amazing.
Yeah. Hey, and one unfriendly question here. Sorry about this, Dom. How much faith does Dom have in the Mets yet? So that's from Seth Myers there.
Well, I had a lot more if you talked to me yesterday than I do now since they got
Yeah.
shellacked again. So got to have tonight. Got to have it
Yeah.
tonight. But the
There we
fact they're
go.
even in the LCS is ridiculous. They were 10 games under 500 in May. I already written them off. People can find the tweet. I said the time of death was right around Memorial Day, and they're still playing. So
Yeah, I remember that. Remember that. Yes. All right, Dom, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. We'll have to have you back again because there are so many questions here for you, but really appreciate it and everything you do for NDSU and the FCS. So
I appreciate you guys having me on, and should be a fantastic game. Only regret is I don't get to call it this week, but it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for inviting me.
yeah, thanks, Dom. And thank you to our sponsors and everyone that tuned in. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.